I'm going to ask David to share what's the smart thing to do from a business perspective. And Manpower has truly been a trailblazer on this issue, but not without its hurdles that David overcame internally with his own company. So if you can talk a bit about how Manpower got involved in this and some of the obstacles you overcame.
First of all, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. This is a really critical issue on a global basis. And I think it might be useful, given that we're talking about how to engage corporations, companies of all sizes in the fight against human trafficking, to just very briefly tell you the story of how Manpower Group got involved in this. And it's a little bit counterintuitive, the whole thing. I got a telephone call one day. My assistant in London called me and said, David, there's the Queen of Sweden is on the phone. I said, yeah, right. And I thought she was pulling my leg, as they say in England. And she said, no, really, it's Sylvia of Sweden. And I said, what the hell does she want with me? So I answered the call. I was very polite. I got put through to the Queen. And she said, you're one of the largest companies in the world. I just met some people that told me about Manpower Group. She said, what are you doing about human trafficking? And I said the words that I hear so many times now in corporations. I said, what human trafficking? This was 8 years ago. I had no single idea what was going on. Of course, there is always an awareness of things like prostitution, especially in the industry that we are, putting people into decent jobs. We're aware that there are illicit criminal activities, putting people into bonded labor. But it never struck me that there was an issue of modern-day slavery, of human trafficking. So she took me through some of the numbers, and as Dawn just said, could be that there are 27 million people, mostly women and children, that have been trafficked just in a year. It's absolutely horrific. And then we started to think in Manpower Group about the implications for a company that works in more than 90 countries. What could we do? How could we get involved? Our core values are about putting people into decent jobs, giving everyone the chance to improve their lives through decent work. If you stand for that, intuitively, you must stand against the opposite. And when we looked at that, maybe 8 years ago, it was very clear to us that over the career of the company, we'd always done great things socially. We'd done lots of workforce development, put people into jobs, inner cities, marginalized communities. But we'd never said, here's what we're going to do on a global basis. We're going to stand up for something a bit different. And if your mission is to put people into work, you must be against people that are abused at work and criminals that make money out of abusing people as commodities worldwide. So we got involved with something, and we went along to Athens, where a number of companies, very small number, international organizations, the UN, we penned something called the Athens Ethical Principles. And this was really a focus on the global business community to ask them to do two things. Sign the Athens Ethical Principles, check your supply chains on a global basis to make sure that you're not using trafficked people, slaves, bonded labor. And secondly, to do something in your HR policies and your company value statements that says, if you work for my company, our company, it's against our values for you to hire prostitutes. So please do not do it. When we got into that, I had two jobs to do. One was to go back to the corporation and say what we were doing. The other one was, I said, I'll be the ambassador for this. I know just about every top chairman in every company in the world. I'll just write to them and they'll all sign up for this. So I sent out about 1,000 handwritten letters to the Fortune 1000. There isn't such a thing as the Fortune 1000, but the top 1,000 companies by revenue in the world. Do you know how many answers I got? And I know these people. I got 3. I got 3, and they were all rejections, saying, oh, it's really tough for us. We couldn't sign up for something like this. It's too hard. We've got a franchise organization. We'd have to rewrite every franchise agreement in the world. And then I thought, that's crazy. So I wrote another letter, and then I got 40 responses. 10 of them were positive. And I realized that there was a huge barrier, and the barrier was twofold. Number one, corporations didn't really know about human trafficking. And number two was, once they knew about it, they're going, what on earth can we do? How can we do anything? Aren't there not-for-profit organizations and governments that should fix this? So we had to start persuading big organizations. And we did it through some very interesting routes. We started to engage with the global trade union organizations to get them to put pressure on employers to sign. We did it through shareholder activist groups. We did it through the press. We did it through TV stations like CNN that run things like the Freedom Project, that raise awareness for not just corporations, but everyone about human trafficking. And as of last week, finally, we counted that we had around about 14,000 companies that had signed the Athens Ethical Principles so far. And we keep going. But the journey that I had inside of the company tells you how difficult this can be. It wasn't a natural yes when we went to the board and said, we're going to start all of these activities against human trafficking. The first question of any responsible board in the US is, how much? How much is it going to cost us? And you kind of work out what some programs will be, how you can help partner with not-for-profits on building their capacity, how you can influence governments, how you can get more corporations signed up, how you can do PR communications programs with CNN, CNBC, and it comes up to a lot of zeros after the first number that you put at the front of with dollars on it. And it was pretty hard for me to really get the full commitment of our board. They would say, yeah, but what do we get back for this? Which is a very valid question because we've got shareholders to serve. And what we did was we started to look at various things, which we had for a long time. And as we were stepping up to run some global social contribution programs, we started to look at things like employee engagement, which is how close to the values of our corporation is every employee that works for us. And if you can increase employee engagement in your organization, the stickiness that you have between employees and the company, it does have a tendency to reduce something called attrition in a company, which is labor turnover, people leaving to go to another job. You can imagine in a company that has millions of employees, like Manpower Group, what a tiny reduction in attrition can mean in terms of dollars to the bottom line. And in a number of countries, we started to measure, given our social contribution and the stance that we took on human trafficking, but also to help refugees and to stop the abuse of migrant workers on a global basis. Year after year, our employee engagement numbers went up, which means that we were saving money for the corporation. The other one, which Elizabeth kindly mentioned, was that over the 8-year period that we've been involved in this, we have increased our reputation. We are seen as an ethical company. And believe me, when you go and your bid on a $100 million deal looks very much like the bid in terms of price that all of your competitors put in there to a company like IBM, you want to differentiate yourself. And one of the things that differentiates Manpower on a global basis is that we are an ethical company. You hire people from us, you use our people, you know that they've been sourced correctly, they're trained, they're developed, and we treat them in a fair manner. So you know that. That has helped our sales process, our brand, and our positioning. The other thing that it's done is achieve some remarkable results. All over the world, we have our employees getting involved on a day-to-day basis. Places like Mexico City, where Manpower Group Mexico have partnered a local NGO called Casa de las Mercedes. Now, this is really tough work. What this refuge does is takes women away from the cartels on the streets of Mexico City and gives them a safe haven so they can have their children, get trained, developed, and then we put them into jobs in Mexico City. Believe me, taking women away from cartels is a pretty tough task. So what I try to tell big corporations is it's not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. Financially, employee engagement, brand projection, and the motivation that we see that our employees have when they save someone or train someone that has been saved and find them a job. It is just astronomical in terms of the stickiness it gives to the relationship between the corporation and the individual. So it affects the bottom line. The job that we've got to do is to get out and engage many more corporations. And Dawn is one of the founders of something that we're launching very, very soon, Business Coalition Against Trafficking. we felt that there wasn't enough activity in the corporate world in North America to stop human trafficking. And we can engage corporations to help build capacity, ultimately find some funding to get involved with our employees with not-for-profit organizations, but even more importantly, to talk to government and to raise awareness so that something is done about this dreadful crime. Dawn said 27 million people. I'm sorry, on a global basis, those are the ones that we know of. There are 200 million people today working outside of their country of origin in jobs. And according to the International Organization of Migration, where I'm on the board, 100 million people could be being abused on a global basis because they're being moved by illegal traffickers or labor agents from one country to another. So our job with Business Coalition is to gather corporations like the ones that have already joined us: ExxonMobil, Coca-Cola Company, Carlson Group, Manpower Group, and others, Ford Motor Company. And we are going to keep going until we have every large corporation in America signed up to try to stop human trafficking and help the efforts of the fine and fantastic not-for-profit organizations that are out there.